Okay, welcome again. Today we're going to talk about continuous integration. So, continuous integration is the intent of being pushing continuously this code into our join source code itself. For this, we need to normally validate how things are working. In our case, we're going to use GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is one of the big amount of systems that can actually do that. There's Azure alternative. Also, AWS has an alternative. There's Travis. There's Jenkins open source. But in our case, we're going to use GitHub Actions. This will allow us to validate that our code is working before we actually do any steps for releasing that code into the public. So, how do we integrate with the GitHub Actions? Well, let's start with going back to our system. Uh, Here in our project, we just need to add a new folder. Anything that goes for GitHub Actions goes under the .github folder, and under this GitHub folder, there's a workflows. And here we can actually add the workflow that we're going to be doing. This will appear actually here in the actions. So let's call it build.yaml because it actually uses a language called YAML, and we can give it a name. Let's change my keyboard. And we can give it a name like, for example, my CICD workflow. This is just a cosmetic kind of thing. Now, on this kind of workflow, we have to tell when is actually this is going to actually happen. In our case, we want to do it whenever somebody pushes into our main branch. Why? Because we're not going to be using feature branches like happens in open source code. Our intent is to practice that is called front-based development. The idea is everybody pushes to the same branch. Why do we do this? It's because we create really small changes over the day, and we are all integrating in the same kind of code. So code doesn't actually diverge a lot, like it happens when we're doing pull requests. This is an alternative. Personally, I think it's the only way of doing continuous integration and continuous delivery. The fact is, for actually to be continuous delivery, you need to deploy at least once a day. So if you have multiple people working separately, that means quite a few releases per day. A feature branch could actually not work more than one, not access more than one day. So let's see. We'll see in next chapters how do we manage to achieve this. Coming back to this, now we are going to be running our workflow during our push into the main branch. So what is actually going to happen? So you have to define what are called jobs. And let's call our jobs build and test. So this is going to run on a machine. We need to define what machine we want to run it on. You know, it can be a Linux machine. That is what we're going to be using. So we're going to use the Ubuntu latest, but it could be Windows machines, it could be Mac machines. But in this case, let's use the default Ubuntu ones. Our process will have several steps. These steps will actually uh, make sure that our project is actually working as we expect and also deploy as we want. So in our case, we don't have a deployment yet, but we have our code. So we want to actually validate that whenever everybody pushes, pushes the code, that code has certain standard. So we're first going to need to check out the code. This is just an action because actions are actually composable. Uh, you can find GitHub action marketplace. You can find a lot of actions that you can add to your flow in this page. But in our case, we want to start with our checkout. So actually downloading the code uh, from our service. Then we use also another action that will set up Node.js. So again, actions slash setup node at master because we want the latest version. And then we're going to run our process. So we're going to run npm install. That will install all our dependencies. And we're going to run npm test. That basically are the tests that we've defined here. With this in mind, now we have something that we can actually push into our system and see what happens. So if we do a git status, we know that we have everything news on this GitHub folder. So if we do git add dot, we see that we are adding our build file. If we do a git commit, added the files. And now we can do a push. What happens now when we push? We actually should see here our build system. Here. We should actually see that we have now an action. So it should be GitHub workflows. And if we go to actions, we should see our build running. Something happened. It's in red. That means we actually wrote something wrong. So no step defines in steps. So if we go here, we can see it's actually not in singular, it's in plural. So we need to use steps, and this uses and runs. So let me do that minus p. This is another command that you can use. So it's git minus p will allow you to review individual lines of codes just to make sure that every single part is what you expect to actually be pushing. So we're going to git commit again, and we're going to be fix build file, and we're going to git push again. And we should see on our actions that again something failed. Unexpected value run on. Required property is missing. Again, I did something wrong, so this is runs on and not in singular. So same as before. Now we push, and we should see our action here, hopefully running. So this is GitHub Actions, and now this will run a process where it will actually get our code, install Node, then it's going to add the dependencies, then it's going to run the test, and if everything is right, it will give us a green check mark. This validates that everything has worked fine. The workflows that actually failed, you will see the red check mark, and this is how we can iterate and actually integrate with other people and make sure that the code follows a certain standards, certain quality, and works the same for everyone. Thanks for watching this chapter. We'll continue talking about other things in the next ones. Please make sure to like this video. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, and we'll continue in the next chapter. See you soon.